Joining us now, she's the head coach at Maryland, entering season number two. Of course, has had tremendous success as a player and as a coach throughout her career. We speak of Lori Karn, who joins us here on In the Circle on D1 Softball. How you doing?
I'm doing well, Eric. How are you?
Doing good. I want to start with it's not. What's it like to actually have a fall where you get to kind of just work on your team instead of trying to learn about who you actually have?
Yeah. Jerry just heard me talk about this a little bit earlier, but I this fall felt like my most organized fall that I've ever had. And I think part of that is because we were being so intentional about the way that we were preparing for January. Um, and so having the time to kind of evaluate through our fall games, do some team practices, lay our foundation of the things that are really important to us as coaches to get into a championship level program. And then go into our 8 hour week and our skill work sessions and map that out to where we were keeping up with game speed stuff and challenging our team in a similar way to team practices. That has been, I feel like we've seen a lot of growth from our entire team kind of because of the way that we laid that out.
Did fall feel a little bit slower in a way compared to last fall when you were hired August 31st? For those that don't know, like you had to jump in. I remember we had on the show, and you were trying to figure out where you were going to live and everything like that. In a
Yes.
way, did this fall feel slower for you than compared to last fall?
Not really. It felt um the fall felt like it still went by fast, but maybe just in a different way and in a more productive way for sure.
Fair. You went 24-30, but you played your best softball towards the end of the year. I
Mhm.
think you finished the year winning four of the last five. You had knocked off Penn State in a Big Ten tournament, a great game in extra innings. Did you feel that your team was turning the corner there towards the end there? How would you reflect when you reflect on last season? What came to your mind?
I do think that we did start to turn a corner, obviously way too late. And I think part of that is exactly what I was just talking about. Like the fall didn't really give us an opportunity to face any challenges together. And so we had to go through that in the season. My defensive coach didn't join me till October. My offensive coach didn't join me until the week before we shut down, before Thanksgiving. And so our ability to just kind of be together as a unit and be challenged as a unit and then come out on the other side didn't happen until we started playing games in February. And then some things were happening where even me as the leader, I was looking and I was like, okay, now I understand exactly what the focus needs to be and how we need to change the program just so I can lead this program better. And it took a while to get to that point, and then at the end we were definitely turning a corner, but it was just too late and we couldn't really trust the process that we had been through because of how late it was.
It almost sounds like the season itself was a learning year,
Oh
maybe
yeah.
more than normal in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I call it year zero
Yeah.
because this feels like the full year one. And what I hate about that is we I didn't I wasn't able to implement all the things that I wanted to and with my staff that I wanted to for the seniors that left us. We did everything we possibly could to send the right messages in a short amount of time, but we only had a short amount of time with that class. And they were a very impactful class and they had so much talent. And so, do I think we could have been better through the whole year? Absolutely. But again, we didn't come together as a unit and face challenges as a unit until we started playing games.
But one of the things I noticed you did during the season, and I saw it on the site, was kind of this mindset of positivity with your
Mhm.
teammates. And there's a big good video about that for folks that haven't seen it. I would recommend checking it out on the on your site. But you talked about the positivity. Your players talked about that, about supporting each other in each at bat, regardless of what the result is, and how it took some time for everybody to kind of buy into that because they weren't sure. Wait, am I supposed to pat him on the bat? What am I? So I mean, take me through that process of telling the players and being positive within each other to get the most out of each other.
Yeah, it was We found out pretty early in the season that when we were competing, regardless of the coaches' reactions to plays, and I am very cognizant of the way that I react to an error or a bad at bat or just our pitcher giving up a home run. I'm trying to empower them and free them up enough to go back to it in the next opportunity, and you don't have to worry about that. We can learn from it. You don't have to worry about that. And I found out early in the season that that actually did not matter. My reactions were not enough for the team, or non reactions, my positive reactions were not enough for the team to buy into. They weren't like following the example. So when people talk about leading by example, like I'm doing it because it's just part of who I am, they have no idea how to do it. So we took a practice and we practiced giving high fives, which sounds silly. But it was like we had to give high fives whether something was executed or not, because we needed to understand how do you go up to somebody and encourage them after they've failed? How do you go up to somebody and encourage them when they have done something well? And then how do you, as the person, whether you've succeeded or you've failed, how do you receive that encouragement? So we had to practice that. Now, are high fives for everybody? No. Some of my girls were like, I actually hate high fives. And I was like, okay, we'll work on that later in the season. Right now, we're high fiving. And that was kind of the start of like, I'm not allowing you guys to walk away from this program or this season and not feel some level of support from the people next to you. Did it work every single game? No. But it was to the point where we practiced our high fives in practice. Then in games, after every single at bat, everybody get off the fence, go to the front of the dugout, give high fives. If the person just struck out, it wasn't received well. So then we talked about how can you receive it? What are some things you can say to somebody? So then it resonates and it kind of gets them out of a negative headspace. And then we also had meetings with our mental health specialists who kind of had them link up with somebody else as a mental health accountability partner in games to keep them in check, to be like, hey, you're a little bit down right here. Like, what are you thinking about? How can I help you get out of this? And so it was a lot of practice on positivity. And we're hoping that doing that last year, it is definitely bleeding into this year, but we're not having to focus as much on that, which I think is where a lot of the growth in the fall has come.
In a lot of ways, though, that may have helped you in that second half of the year, especially as I mentioned, you finished the year really strong and formed that trust and bond.
Mhm.
Because I'm sure it was kind of unique for them. They were trying to learn you on the fly. You're trying to learn
Yeah.
them on the fly. What a better way to earn that trust of than having your own teammates being positive and being saying, "Hey, I got your back."
Yeah. And it was one of our players last year did actually say, I told myself to just like fake it, just fake it. Because this is what coach is asking me to do. So let's just fake it and see what happens. And then she was like, after like a week or two, I was like really bought into it. And now it's like how I'm showing up every day. I was like, well, I appreciate you faking it to begin with, because it is important to me for our program to be able to have success under my leadership. It's not everybody's style, but under my leadership style, I think just being positive and understanding how to move forward in challenging times is the only way that you can come out on the other side under my leadership.
Well, let's talk about this year's team. Let's first start with the offense, as you mentioned here. It's unique. You got some new faces. You obviously have I think a couple seniors. So you got a good core back. Just talk about your offense and how that's looking now, and who are some of the leaders that you think will lead your offense.
Yeah, so we have Maisie returning in the outfield and Sam. So there are only two seniors. Sam is behind the plate, and they're both sixth year seniors. So we don't have any fifth years, and we don't have a senior class. So it goes from our sixth years to our juniors. And Maisie, obviously, we are looking for her to come back and impact our program the same way that she did last year. Possibly move her to center field, and have her hitting at the top of the lineup somewhere. And then Sam behind the plate was injured last year. So she was a fifth year transfer last year. She was injured, so she didn't compete for us. But she has already elevated our pitching staff from behind the plate. Um, and her attention to detail in the game. She wants to be a coach, so she's got that player coach vibe going on. But it helps her because she's a student of the game and she also like she wants to execute really, really well all the time. And so she's elevated our game behind the plate. The two of them in the way that they lead and the way that um, they are both kind of a level-headed duo is helping what we just talked about in the positivity piece and that kind of stuff.
What is the identity of your offense?
To manufacture runs, like in any way possible. So our we have lost a lot of power in our lineup. Not all of the power from our lineup last year, but we have lost a lot of power from our lineup last year. And in where we feel like more plugins are going to happen, we're adding more contact gap to gap hitters. And so we've talked a lot about we really need to understand who we are individually as hitters and where we gain the most success and how we can help the team have the most success. And that's bunting, base stealing, being aggressive on bases and taking extra bases. But like having that pre-planned so you know what to expect when the ball's put in play. Um, Suicide squeezes, drawing walks where we can, and being just more gritty in the box to go really, really deep into counts. And then on top of that, we're practicing some things where we're moving people, we're doing more like down angle balls to make sure that when we do a hit and run, we're also understanding the importance of getting it on the ground. And so we've practiced all of that this fall in an attempt to be as prepared as possible to do anything that we need to offensively. We can't rely just on a home run. It's not going to happen for us. So, how do we get the people on base? And then how are we going to move them? And what can you do individually, knowing that you're going into this situation to help us score as many runs as we can? Sorry.
And then, of course, you have somebody like Sydney Lewis, who led you in RBIs, was all Big Ten second team. Talk
Yep.
about her, what makes her so good there, and certainly was a big part, going to be a big part of your offense.
Yeah, we're really excited to have her back. She is such a bubble of energy. I don't know if you've seen her in some videos or followed her at all, but she has so much high energy and she wants to succeed at such a high level in a positive way. So she also bleeds into that mindset. She's also hard on herself, but I think the way that she's hard on herself makes her a really good hitter because she doesn't allow herself the space to stay in a valley for too long. And she's she knows what she's good at. She knows what pitches she wants to drive. I'm not going to say I'm here. You can see it on the video. She knows exactly what her plan is, and she talks to her offensive coach a lot. And I think last year in the DP role, she had so much success just focusing on one aspect of the game when it came to just the offensive piece. Um, that it allowed her time to like evaluate her at bats. It allowed her time to pay more attention to what situations are going on offensively. And then she was also like the biggest cheerleader defensively, which was awesome. Um, so when she's coming going when we're going into this year, um, her and Mariah Penta have both been taking reps at first base. Both have the ability to play first base, and both have the ability to be a DP. So early in the year, what I'm anticipating is figuring out who's operating in each role the most efficiently. Who can take that DP role and not let it get too big when all you're focused on is the offense, and then who really needs and excels at kind of the changing and the ebbs and flows of a game where you have a defensive responsibility, then you have your offensive responsibility, and then it kind of goes back and forth and allows you the distraction, I guess you could call it, that you need to have success on offense as well.
Which player you've noticed has taken a jump in this fall, maybe compared to where they were in May? That feel they just feel more comfortable this fall now because they kind of get it. They kind of now know what you all were kind of telling them to do. They're more comfortable. Have you noticed that from some of the players that have
Um,
jumped in there?
I would say two of them that like really just jump off the page here. Um, Maisie had a really good understanding of everything that she was doing last year, but she's because she's so experienced, because she's a little bit older, just in age, so like, life feels different. Um, she is like to a point now where she's like, okay, I got this. I know exactly what I need to do here. I know I need to keep it simple. I can't let things get too big for me. And she is totally like locked into that. And then Maddie Runyon, um, she's a really, really exceptional player on defense. And offensively, she had her ups and downs last year, but um, she was open to hitting from the right side of the plate. And so she's switched and is hitting with a very, very high level of confidence from the right side of the plate and just feeling good about all the things that she's doing. Um, and so I'm excited to see where that takes her. And then there's a newcomer who I didn't see last May, but from when she got here on the first day of fall practice to now, Taylor Borovac, she's from Missouri. She has like, I mean, she's playing like a junior right now at the end of fall, just high level of confidence, trusting herself, maybe not all the time, but trusting herself and just doing everything as hard as she can in the right ways. And so I've seen a lot of growth from her in a really short amount of time.
That's really good, and of course you got some new faces you mentioned there. Team pitching staff. How is the pitching coming along this year? And tell us about some of the names there. Do you foresee a staff? Do you see a couple of arms kind of leading the way? Where do you see for the pitching staff?
Definitely the use of a staff. I see Aubrey and Julia maybe taking more of the bulk of the work. And then K-Bar or Kira, sorry, and Bree really complementing the two of them. Now that doesn't mean that obviously that can't change. It could certainly change, especially as we move through the first couple weeks of the season where we're going to face some really big challenges, and so we're going to have to utilize our whole staff. They all do something a little bit different. Aubrey is higher velocity, higher spin, tighter break, really good change of speed, which she worked on all fall. So I'm really excited about that for her. Julia is our lefty who does some funky things. Again, a really good change of speed and just like an athlete. Julia is just an all-in athlete. She's not necessarily your refined pitcher, but has a good understanding for the game and just how to beat batters. And then Kira is our niche kind of off speed down ball, but super high game IQ and how to get batters out. And she's made some adjustments this fall that I think are going to help her succeed in the spring. And then Bree Godfrey kind of revamped her pitching motion and is having a really, really high level of success with her curveball on different planes and in different on different sides of the plate. And so her ability to mix that with her off-speed pitch that looks very similar is going to give her, I'm hoping, more success than she had last year. Um, so if I'm looking at it now, again, Aubrey and Julia are taking the bulk of the innings where Kira and Bree are complementing them, but there's like Bree could take off at any point, Kira could take off at any point, and um, if and when they do that, it's going to be based on matchups. It could be just that we're in a series and a team just really can't get their timing down on somebody or can't really make adjustments off of this pitch, and so we'll go with that person hard until we can't go with them anymore.
Sounds like you've got variety in your pitching staff too.
We
They
do.
you did some different looks. Accurate.
Yes, definitely. We definitely have some variety. They don't all look the same. They don't all throw the same velocity. And so I think utilizing them as a staff is going to be better for us because of those reasons.
And you mentioned Aubrey first. For those that don't know, she's a freshman.
Hmm.
That's, I mean, to mention her right away, that's big there. Part of that freshman class there.
Yeah.
Immediate impact there is from some of the youngsters. Who are some of the other freshmen you think that could make an impact?
Yeah, so Maddie Benson, who we have taking reps at third base for us right now, I mean, she's just like a bulldog. She doesn't play what I call like pretty softball. She's not fundamentally perfectly sound. She's not making spectacular plays, super smooth, but she will do anything to get the job done. I mean, anything. Really good hand-eye coordination. Um, Understands timing pretty well. And so even offensively, her ability to foul pitches off that are like nowhere near the zone. And I throw BP, so I'm paying attention in these things. I can feel it out of my hand where it's about to go. And then when she swings and is still able to get her barrel there to foul it off, I'm like, oh my God. It's surprising to me. So I'm excited for the things that she's doing, just like, and her bulldog mentality, just get it done. Doesn't matter how it gets done. We need to just, accomplish the mission. Um, and then we have Megan Gray, who's behind the plate, who will be behind Sam, but I think will get some good experience as a freshman and is learning so much from Sam and Coach Jay. Just the speed of the game and the nuances of the game. She's excited and she's just a sponge back there. So I'm excited for her, but she does have the ability with Sam ahead of her to kind of take this year to grow a little bit more and learn through the experience that she gets. And then Gracie Wilson, who's an outfielder for us, I think in year one, she's going to be one of our first people off the bench pinch running, and she's fast. She's not afraid to be aggressive. Um, we usually are the ones who have to stop her around the bases, and she's throughout the fall in her base running has gotten more comfortable being more aggressive and taking more chances, which is what we need out of our base runners. And so I'm excited for the impact that she's going to have in just about every game because we use our pinch runners in just about every game. So I'm really looking forward to the way that we can utilize her in certain parts of the game, different innings, and be smart about the way that we use her because we will need her to manufacture runs.
How do you feel? Do you feel defensively? You're more athletic this year defensively, or you more? How do you feel about your defense here as we get a couple of months away? I know there's still some battles going on and things
Yeah,
like that, so I'm not expecting to have spots. But how do you feel about your defense right now?
defensively, I mean, I feel like we're pretty solid and we're understanding more now some of the concepts that we're trying to get them to do defensively. Just as far as where we want them position wise and what angles we need them to take for different balls, the way we need to be more aggressive from our infield to the outfield, taking balls to the outfield, because depending on where our outfield is positioned, um, sometimes our infielder's mindset is, well, that probably isn't my ball. And then they turn around and the outfield's not there. And we expect that. So I think we are actually in a really good spot defensively, and we're going to need to be because I think our pitching staff is going to be a little bit of a pitch to contact. So we have been really focused on defense, even through our 8-hour week, getting them as prepared as possible to make as many plays, double plays, getting lead outs, all of those good things um, come February. But I do feel good about our defense, and we do have our middle infielders are returning. Now they're being challenged a little bit by Taylor, our freshman, but they're returning and they have been starters for 2 years, and so they have a really good sense of what we're trying to do, and we just need to get them to apply it to the game speed when we're playing opponents.
Yeah, because I remember I was going back since I've covered you since Oakland there. Then when you won those championships, defense was a big part
Oh
of your
yeah.
championship. So that's why I was curious where you were from a defensive standpoint at this point. What did you learn last year about the Big Ten? Going through it for the first time that you kind of have in the back of your pocket as you go into it this year, a historic year as it is in the Big Ten, with obviously
Yeah.
the arrivals of UCLA and Oregon and Washington. So maybe to some extent what you learned last year may not necessarily apply this year because it's such a bigger league. But still, what did you learn and what you're looking forward to from the Big Ten this year?
The Big Ten is a gritty conference, in my opinion. And you can see it from the outside, but competing regularly against these teams, I mean, it feels like dogfight after dogfight after dogfight, which it should. And when you compete at a high level, that's what it is. So, having our group of people at Maryland understand just how gritty you need to be and just how deep you need to dig to beat these teams, that is something that I don't think we fully understood. And we talked about it last year. And we have talked about just like the game has to keep going. And if we have outs to play with, we have the opportunity to still win. That wasn't necessarily our mindset in each game last year. It was kind of like we had some back and forth games. But there were other games where it was like as soon as somebody took a lead, it felt like the team was like, okay, I guess we're just going to lose this one. And for me, wanting them to be in a mindset where we're just, the game isn't over until it's over. And so, what can you do in this moment to impact the game is really important. We've talked a lot about that. So, I'm hoping that we can pull that out of them a little bit more this year. Um, but I'm really excited for all of our young people to get experience this year, maybe more experience than they had last year because of how many seniors contributed. Um, because then that's just going to carry into the future of our program. And that is like Maisie and Sam are leaving their mark as seniors. They're doing a great job leading the group. They're doing all the right things. They work hard. They're going to show up on the field. And for our young people who are going to face some big challenges this year, um, I want them to take them as learning experiences and not shy away from them.
I believe you beat Oregon last year.
Yes.
Did you not? Yeah, so that's what I remember. You beat Oregon. You beat Penn State. It was two of your two top 25 wins.
Mhm.
Um, does that give to this group confidence when you do play some of the new members in the Big Ten and things like that from that standpoint? Whereas maybe others might be like a little like, "Ooh, and we're not as familiar." Well, we played we played an Oregon type and beaten
Yes.
them. We played the Penn State, who obviously was in the NCAA.
Yep.
We're right there. Does that give confidence to the returners in that group?
I think it does. I think it does. And I think they do feel like the work that they're doing now is getting them to be able to beat those programs. So last fall for our freshmen, it was their first fall as a college athlete, and we were all over the place. And there was really the plan that we had. It was so because of the late hires for the rest of my staff, it was such a vanilla plan, I guess you could call it, where it was like, let's just work on like some basic things here until we get our person in who can like nail down exactly what they want to do. Um, and so this fall, I feel like they are really trusting everything that they've seen and everything that they've done, the work that they've done. They're trusting the fact that they now have the tools and capabilities to beat them as this team, knowing that, we don't have the senior group from last year.
How much were you able to implement last year? You make a great point. You all arrived so late. How much were you able to implement compared to what you've implemented this year?
Uh, maybe one or two things. And it was like, even for the pitchers, I mean, they had started practice prior to my arrival. Um, and so my plan for them was like, the fall was an evaluation period. And then they didn't necessarily trust me off the bat because you don't just walk into meeting someone and be like, hey, I trust you. And so I think it took probably until that like Oregon Washington weekend for the pitching staff to be like, okay, like now I kind of see the way we're moving here and I think I can buy into some of these things, but at that point in time we're in like maintenance mode.
Right.
And so really being able to implement anything was challenging last year.
That's why it sounds like last year was maybe one of the most learning years of your coaching career in a lot of ways because you
For
had to do a
sure.
lot of things they hadn't had to do before.
Yes, absolutely.
Now, I remember we spoke last year. I told you that you're in an area, one of my favorite areas,
Mhm.
that I've come to visit. My family, I have sisters, and my sister lives up there in this region and everything. Now, I remember you were such in like, I don't have time to check out anything. I'm just trying to figure out what I got and all that on the fly.
Yeah.
So now that you've got a year under your belt, you and your family, what have you checked out any of the sceneries, any places you've gone like that stands out? What have
I
stood out?
mean, the first, I absolutely love our campus. So I've actually been able to like explore our campus a little bit
Yeah.
more, and it's it's special. So I'm always excited to do that when recruits are on campus now. Whereas before, I was like, I don't know what we're looking at. Um, so our campus is beautiful. Going down to DC, awesome. I mean, there's really nothing like it. And then just moving out to Annapolis, there are some like my husband and I are kind of foodies. We really like to find good restaurants and then we stick to those restaurants. There are some really, really good restaurants out by Annapolis that we're finding, like good donut shops, Italian food. We found an American restaurant, a winery. So we're exploring way more now that we have some time. Um, but overall, like we're just feeling a little bit more like this feels like home, and we're excited about that.
Have you gone to any of the professional sporting events yet in that region?
Not yet. We have not done that
Oh,
yet. And part of that, so part of the reason for that is my husband over the summer went back to Michigan to work in the USPBL. So he's still the pitching coordinator of that independent professional league. So he was there. I was in Maryland with our kids, shuttling them back and forth to grandmom's houses, aunts and uncles' houses while I was out recruiting. And so we didn't have time this summer to do a lot of those things. And then into the fall, like I said, we just had our move, so we're settling in. But I mean, I'm an Eagles and a Phillies fan. He's a Mets guy. He really likes football. He doesn't have like a diehard football team, but it's not the Eagles, I can tell you that. So some of that stuff is on our to-do list for sure.
well, he's a Mets fan. He's got to be excited. He just got Juan Soto there.
He is excited.
And you got to be. You got Saquon Barkley. So you're all
Yeah.
taking New York. I mean, your favorite teams are taking big marquee New York players.
Yep.
Although I guess if you're a Philly Eagles fan, yeah, you're in a tricky spot there because that's kind of a rivalry there with some of those
Oh,
places you might. Yeah, if you play the
when-
Commanders and all that, that's a kind of rivalry.
yeah, yeah. Yeah, we'd have to pick and choose our games wisely.
Well, I recommend Camden Yards for the
Okay.
Orioles. All right, I
Yep.
love that park.
Yep.
Nats Park's pretty cool, but I love Camden. I've been to both, but I love
Okay.
Camden Yards is what I would recommend. I think the
Okay.
kids would like that once, especially as they grow a little older.
Yep.
On there, you got to go to a cool spot. I forgot to ask you earlier about this in the fall to play in Williamsport.
Team sport.
How
Yes.
was it?
It was awesome. I mean, that experience is really awesome. It's really cool for our girls to interact with young softball players in like the camp setting. And then for us to be able to play on that field, there's something so special when you like drive into the complex and you see the field down on the right, which we didn't come in that way this today, but we all got up and saw it. Or we didn't come in that way this fall, but it's like it's one of those things you've seen on TV so many times. Our girls have watched the Little League World Series so many times, and then you're standing in that spot, and it's a very surreal feeling to stand in a spot that such young people have had so much success in that area, and you're like looking up to them because I'm standing there thinking, how must those kids feel when these stands are completely full and there's people on the hill and there's cameras everywhere and we're talking about really young people who are like, can I go ride my bike after this?
Yeah,
Um, so just kind of looking up to the way that they handle that. But the staff of the Little League World Series and Ashley, they have done a great job with that event. And our team loves it every year. We love competing in it. And I know they and we are hoping to grow it and grow with more teams in it to hopefully get more youth softball players out there.
So you will continue to go there. That's the
Yes,
plan.
that is
Okay.
the plan.
Okay.
Yes.
Cool. Awesome. That's awesome to hear. Awesome. That
Yeah.
glad you got to experience that. That's like a bucket list for
It's
some people there. I know
yeah,
that.
it's really cool.
Last question. What is a couple things once you get going, between now and February, maybe even the start of February, questions, thoughts that you may not find out until you play competition that you think will be the keys to the season?
How we respond, very, very similar to last year. I think the biggest thing for us is can we stay locked into the mission for a full 7 innings or 8 innings or 9 innings or 10 innings, however many innings it takes to complete the game? Can we really buy into individually um, our willingness to win and whatever your role is in doing that, whether you are a first runner off the bench or you're somebody who's paying attention to trying to pick pitches or you're trying to help our batters with timing pieces or the way that they're communicating. Just if our entire group can stay individually motivated to help the team win throughout the course of a single game, however long it is, that is going to lead to more success for us, even in moments where it might seem intimidating for them. And so we are really trying to focus internally and how we can make an impact on each other, not allow external factors to motivate us or not allow external factors to take us out of our game or take us out of our focus.
Well, we look forward to seeing your team on the field before you know it. It'll get going soon enough in February. But in the meantime, Coach, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to us here. Always enjoy talking to you. Happy holidays. Happy holidays to the family. And thanks for taking the time to talk to us here on In the Circle at D1 Softball.
Thank you, Eric. It's always a pleasure. Happy holidays as well.